The purpose of this exercise is to showcase what my summit looks like, to get the bearings of my ground zero. My primary anchor is located somewhere between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea. My point of origin stems from somewhere between Batumi, a place called Borshka in Artvin. There are links to Laz, Georgian. More remote links would be extending to Russian and Bulgarian. Within this ground zero, there are extensions towards Azerbaijan, Chechnya, Karachay, and the Tatar, Crimea types of regions. That's the general guideline for where my ground zero is stationed. There is a secondary operational null that is also guiding the navigational documentation. I'm physically stationed in Australia, but my mind's eye is centered in between Black Sea and Caspian Sea. The map so far extends to other languages further outside of the Turkic primaries. They include East Asian tongues, South Asian tongues, Arabesque, Persian, Rus, and then whatever it is that exists towards Western Europe that ends up somewhere between Ireland, Scotland, and distinctively north of Dublin. I carry a "You shall not pass" feature located somewhere in Turkmenistan, which feels like a long block that extends east from the Caspian Sea. I can't pass, I can't go south. It's an outright block, signaling to me that my language didn't travel southwest underneath the Caspian Sea. Perception of my language: if I travel north from my center, it forks towards the west. It's headed for Tatar, but I'm traveling east towards the Kazakh direction. When I swing northwest over the Caspian Sea, I can't go south on the other side of it. Turkmenistan is functioning like a roadblock. At the time of recording this, I didn't know if there was some prominent form of geography causing this, like a long mountain range, a river system, something that would naturally block passage on foot. And this is part of the stop, go fetch sequence. This is what I'm looking for. Each time I feel the impasse in my language, the perception of a block, I have to consult with the map, stop, go fetch, scan the surrounds, look at the geography. My perception at the time was any flow of traffic traveling south of the Caspian from somewhere like Azerbaijan towards Turkmenistan was facing some form of extended block that's pushing the traffic further east, and it becomes impenetrable towards the north. You wouldn't be able to go direct north. There is something blocking it. So within the Turkic mindset, what word do I opt for to communicate block? And I don't carry one outside of just block or blocker, because I heard my mum use the word block, but it registers as a type of English or foreign adoption, not a core Turkic word. I perceive it as a concept that might have migrated from the Rus. I'll just do a quick rundown, starting from Türkiye, engel, no link. Bara, no link. However, there is a connection to bar, barricade, barring, but at the time, no, it's out, foreign. Azeri, engel, out. Bağlamak, sort of. Bağlamak is signaling some form of a tie or a constriction. So it can kind of work as a word to communicate a limitation, a block of sorts. Kazakh, kadargi, I didn't connect with, but Bölge 2 was a hotspot, jackpot, with Bölge 2, or at its root level, Bölge. And I know that is the same as bölge. Uzbek, tosik. At the time, it was an outright no, it's out. But that could also be because Uzbek is not a primary triangulation language for me at this stage. An example of trying to cycle through what's this tosik, tashik, tashuk, 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 dashuk, tashuk, tashuk. A tashuk could work for me. Signaling, it is something of a rock. It is carrying the quality of rock that could signal mountain and therefore a block. Turkmen, I resonated with bölek, something which divides. That hit the spot for me, though I felt closer to the Kazakh bölge too. The bölek works for me. There was a reference to a beklamak, but I can't find it. Some kind of beklemek, beklamak. I connect through the bek because a bekçi is like a watchman, a guard waiting, could signal it's a high point watch guard tower. It's carrying connotation, it's a lookout. A beklamak versus a baklamak, a spot to watch, keep an eye out from. Yeah, it's signaling it's a high position that you can view from. That can kind of work. In terms of trying to find my way home, I draw an outline of the words that sounded closest to home, that were more direct to what exists in my vocabulary, and that was the bölge to bölek area, traveling into Kazakhstan and capturing a part of Turkmenistan. However, I'm conscious there is no way through further south of that area. I'm aware there is a roadblock. I picture kissing the northeast side of the Caspian. That's how I picture the home of the root for the word block or obstruction or hindrance. With some research, I saw signs of the word block extending to the Rus. For some reason, there was strong resonance through Chinese. Du wu. I can't do the pitch. I can only do the lateral. Du wu. And when I'm made to do that du wu, it's calling for the uru. Du uru. Du uru. Du uru. Trouble with terminating R detected. This connects me to the word dur from Turkey to signal stop. This becomes a slipstream towards the Chinese landscapes. Du uru is plugging into the spine of R. What is the spine of R? Link below. Already been there, done that. I perceived the Caspian functioning like a fork, which made language split. I was perceiving a dividing range extending from the Caspian Sea. So that's a very brief snapshot of what a summit looks like. There are issues with how sound has been encoded and mapped into Latin. The IPA is suffering from the exact same problem. That's why I need to move forward by mapping sounds according to my own navigational directions first. There's a need for me to calibrate with languages further out. The learning curve for that is very steep. I'm currently brainwashed by the dogma of Latin. I'm gaining some insight through Cyrillic. I've seen a link to Japanese through Cyrillic. Strong source of keku linked to Japan. There's a need to do a stock take of Turkic lingos, and then there's ways to branch further out. How do we communicate stop, block? Such as a pregnant mother with a toddler about to fall off the edge of a table or off the edge of a balcony. How does the parent communicate to the toddler to stop what they're doing? I'm looking at what kind of a noise is the parent going to make. How is it going to be signaled? Stop. That's one idea, to try and approach the concept through a scenario like this where language barrier is minimized, because there would be the ability to assess the child is in danger. I better intercept this before something awful happens. Blocking, you shall not pass. Stop. Blocking, think about it. Don't even think about it. There's all these different flavors, different levels of obstacle, blockage, plug, stop. I need a brainstorming session to explore how can we communicate this visually and what kind of audio do we pair together with that. I need a stop, go fetch, record it, then triangulate the location. The B is a very narrow chasm. There are not many throughways for that flow through that kind of laminar. B, it's very tapered, like a funnel. Böl is one of the most common passages, which means to divide. There is a böj, like böcek. R is another one. Börek, as the letter R equals L. It's pretty much the same paradigm. The other one is a yumuşak G, bö. There aren't many consonants allowing passage through. It's very restrictive like this. It's only 1, 2, no more than 2. I say only about 2. It's a low incidence. My brain can't think of any other throughways. That's how restrictive it is. There is no other way through. I see that like a funnel that's forcing passage through a very skinny throughway. It looks like a very long, skinny funnel. Restrictive, suffocating, claustrophobic, like walking into a cave or an MRI machine, that type of restriction. That's what makes me question what in the environment here caused this, due to this region here appearing to have a strong presence of the letter being a core tone, just exploring words that communicate obstruction, hindrance, and it's just through that word. When I examine other words, it will reveal other areas that will inform me more. The G part, I see it on the Kazakh side. I'm perceiving it's likely to be a soft G of sorts rather than a hard G. Towards Turkmen, it's shifting towards an L that registers as an arabesque curl. So there's a spectrum, the soft G around Kazakh, morphing towards L in Turkmenistan. Sits as an outsider letter for me, although it is a part of Turkish. Its frequency is not as abundant compared to I, which is the dominant carrier in my tongue. It's an outside source. It's come from elsewhere. In this exercise, I'm detecting areas such as Kazakh and Turkmen being a rich source of the The signals I have to keep track. Where else on the map does become a dominant feature, just as I've seen it in this example? I also need to remain mindful of the vowel pattern traveling towards It requires another level of track that as well. I have to look for that pattern in other combinations. That's what I carry. And here we are at the bit where curiosity, the cat, arrived on my front doorstep, and I just had to look for what is there that's blocking. There was reference to Karakum Desert, but I couldn't find a good map or picture of what does this desert actually look like. That is exactly what I'm looking for. Where is the obstruction? Okay, so there is a desert, but I also detected there was a mountain range, Kopet Dağ, where when I see the word Kopet, I had to ask, does this mean köpek? Where is the actual desert? Where is it? It might be here. I don't know the specificities. I had trouble finding a solid outline. Is it really all of this, or is it somewhere here? Is this a picture of the actual desert? I don't know. I couldn't find a good picture of it. I thought it might have been just isolated in this section, but in the meanwhile, this is showing the phenomena of what happens and what made me start to play stop and go fetch in the first place is because I noticed each time the language starts to diverge and I start losing reception of turkic echo, when the transmission signal becomes very weak, there usually is some kind of a blatantly geographical massive obstruction. This is exactly what I'm looking for. I tried to look for elevation. You saw how badly I drew the Caspian and the Black Sea. I didn't have any impression of it's actually this shape specifically. I did feel there was something hugging the top end. Let's try to draw. I did perceive it as a long skinny thing like that, but I didn't have a good picture of what Caspian actually looked like. I just knew it was an amorphous blob like an oval like that, and the Black Sea was another one like that, but I did picture it like an extension that was blocking traffic traveling from north to the south. So It's like, you will not pass, you can't go this way, and for some reason there was something that was making the flow go like that. I'm guessing it could have been this one. I don't know how much of this is the Kopeta mountain, but if this is causing a blockage, yeah, I can see it, I can picture it. This would be a throughway in here, and that would explain to some extent if there is some sort of blockage. It didn't travel here. Per possible blockage, there is a desert where I couldn't get a good picture of where is the desert specifically. And then there's some kind of a mountain as well. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but it kind of looks long and skinny over here. And that resonates with how I pictured it as yeah, it felt like there was a long skinny something or other sticking out, blocking the traffic from north to south. My lingo, there's the Black Sea, it's come from this direction, and it came from north. The reason why I'm traveling north and this way is to try and find my way back home. I've always sensed that my language didn't travel from the underneath bit, it's distinctively up here. If this bit here that's hugging the Caspian, if that's like Kazakh flavored, that informs me a bit more towards this Turkmenistan region. There is like a don't pass, you can't get through, kind of almost like I'm not welcome. I perceive it here. So it's like the top northern parts perhaps are linked, but for some reason this area is like out. And I'd say that probably has a lot to do with all of these sorts of influences mixing about and causing the language to signal to become more dominant from the southern and the southeast sorts of languages, where I would imagine speakers in these sorts of areas would be able to receive or perceive the sounds of this bottom part here as being close, similar to how I'm experiencing, okay, somewhere here the signal starts getting weaker. The geographical blocker, there's no way through, I've detected no way through. Do a go fetch and let's see what's going on and look for the impasse. So that is the general strategy that I've been doing for a long time. In meanwhile, there's a desert and some kind of mountain. And similar, I noticed while doing some read up of the Laz tongue, reflecting on my mother's side. From Batumi, they traveled to Boshka, which I'm not sure is somewhere here, and somewhere in here we got the Laz tongue. I did the same thing there. Is there some kind of something or other that causes a difficulty of passage that makes this language isolated in any way? And yes, from what I could gather, this sort of an area has experienced high levels of rainfall and prone to landslides that has blocked off roads, etc. It's got that kind of a history going on. And this area, lots of high elevation, yeah, pretty damn high. Yeah, and when I saw video footage of this area, Artvin drive-thrus, I was struck by how the landscape resembled the Hampton area, and it made me wonder, oh gee, I know what happens after heavy rainfall. I wonder if it's prone to landslide, versus how the hell are these people living right on top of rivers, etc.? Isn't there going to be like a sliding effect? And it made me question, is that because perhaps the soil underneath was more rock based rather than the Australian style that thinks it's okay to build on top of clay, because the clay actually is harder than metal sometimes, or it's hard enough to break metal. The other fascinating part was I had no idea this was one of the lowest points on the planet below sea level. It's a lake, but actually below sea level. That was very eyebrow raising. Never knew. This bit of geography did catch my eye because it resonated with the funneling. This was exactly how I pictured the a rich source of detected in this area between the Kazakh and the Turkmen kind of area. Strong sense of the and it's as though if the was rich in this sort of spot and then it traveled here, and that's exactly the kind of funnel I pictured. That's exactly the scale of the funneling, where there's only like 1 or 2 consonants that let me have passage through. So that's another visual. Anyhow, that's just an example of what I go through. That's what I look for when I face the roadblocks, the mountain blocks. In the meanwhile, we have an interesting phenomena I needed to just tap in on due to there was a link through the Georgian. Okay, let's work with this map and let's write the word Bergetu from the Kazakh, and the Turkmen had a Bölek, Bergetu, Bölek, and there was the perception of an intrusive L. Wouldn't call it intrusive. I felt that it was actually a part of the ramp towards it. Bergetu, Berge, and I was able to connect. Yeah, there is an L going on, so the G started to become dominant, and I saw a link through the Georgian due to sure if that meant baga. I'm not sure if it was a wonky J, if that meant child, the word for child, because it was from here that I picked up the bala. Yeah, there was a link made between the L and the G, and then it reminded me of I was strongly attracted to the W letter, and I'm not sure if that's how it's written. That's my only memory of it being like some kind of a W.
Nemistoi, the W, the W. Nemistoi, Pillamai. Yeah, it's an L, but it sounds like a W, the W.
I am, fuck you, Sudovsikov.
But it represented the letter L. Yeah, I did a recent revisit of the Georgian alphabet, wondering what other shapes are resembling this kind of a G sound, and I think there might have been 2, but one of them where it's like, is that a yumuşak or is that a full-on G? There was another one which was kind of like only 2, and that was a questionable G. So this correlates with how the visual representation is carrying a logical type of link for me that made perfect, beautiful sense. And that paints a beautiful story of how that G sound morphed into an L is the same as an L, even though conceptually through the English lens it's like, how the hell is that even possible? They sound nothing like each other, but they actually do in this, the way it's spoken through the mouth, ba-la, 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 ba-la. And so there is me detecting from Georgia towards the Kazakh direction, there is a strong source of shades of G, shades of G, between G to L. Dominant G note detected in this type of an area, and in the meanwhile for the is strong from the Kazakh area and this Turkmen area. In the context of just this word and that word together came from this direction. The core of my sense of home through just the word of especially where it's a bölge, börek, böcek. The source of this for the time being, I've picked it up coming from here. But that's not gonna be the exclusive be all and everything. There could be other pockets of over here, etc. But in this specific story with the Georgian G especially, and it's not just G, in the Georgian there was also dominant V, the shvi, strong V. So this V, I have to check, okay, which languages are featuring this shvi, because it's important to keep track of this sh, which is probably rich in this area, the sh. But towards the Kazakh, it morphs towards an S. Where else is this morphology happening? But yeah, this shvi is another feature I have to keep a track of. But this one is linked to Georgian heritage. Alright, so I guess it got a bit multi-layered, but that's what happens through my work. Where I face roadblocks in the language, I have to stop. My center point is somewhere here. That's where my 0 is centered. when I am referencing, okay, that felt north, that felt west. When that happens, my center point is generally in this area. Alright, that'll do.
Get used to it!